In today's tutorial we're going to be working on baby's first Afghan, and I'm calling this the baby's candy gan. So I'm using Bernat baby blanket yarn, and these are provided in really jumbo size balls when you buy them in the stores. And because the yarn is so thick that the balls are very generous themselves, you can see that they're 300 gram or 10.5 ounces if you're looking to match this. In order to make the Afghan that you've seen in the picture when you first started, is that you only need 2 balls of this stuff. So for about $18–20 you got baby's first Afghan. So let's get started. To start this tutorial you'll need a 10mm crochet hook or a size N, and now let's get started with the slip knot just like you see here. So create your slip knot and we're going to get started, and this will be a square. Okay, so we're going to be working in a square, but this is not a typical granny square. So I want you now to chain 4. This does not count as 1. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and because this yarn is so thick, it's not always easy to tell where the stitches are. So let's go to the very first one, just like that, stick it in, and grab the yarn and pull it through to form a hole just like that. So now grabbing the straggler yarn, I just want to pinch it together like that, and I want to just begin to chain up 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so let's now come back down into the hole. So let's double crochet down into the hole like that. So we're going right into the center. I am pinching the straggler so the straggler is caught, and I want to do that one more time. So we're starting this off like it's a typical granny, but it's anything but. Okay, so now we have 3 double crochets. In actual fact, this chain counts as 1 double crochet, and because the yarn is really thick, you really can see your stitches more clearly this time. I want you to chain 1 only, and now let's go 3 more into the center. Okay, so 3 double crochets back into the center. The wonderful thing about this is that actually it's a very simple concept when it comes to making this baby's blanket. Once you understand it, then you can pretty well do it easily without really thinking about it. Okay, so now I want you to chain 1 again. So chain 1 and come back down to the center for 3 more into the hole. 3 more double crochet, I should say. The matching pattern for this is available in the link of this video if you're looking for that as well. Okay, so the 3 double crochets again. Okay, and now let's chain 1 and come back down into the center for 3 more. So we're only going to be double crocheting on this project for the entire project, so that's something you don't really have to worry about it too much as far as like changing your stitches. And now we're just going to chain 1. Okay, and you can really see the square is taking effect, and I want to grab the top section of this chain. This is where we chained up, so I'm going to grab it, and when you grab it I want to make sure that I grab at least 2 of the strings of 3 so that there's still 1 on the underside, the bottom, and I want to pull through and through. Okay, so now I want to chain up 3 again. So let's start at the next row. 1, 2, and 3. And I want to come back down into this pocket right here again for 1 double crochet. Okay, so now what we have to worry about is that when you're crocheting, look here. So you got the blue here. The stitch is actually just toward the right of it, just toward this thumb here, and this one here, the stitch is just slightly over. So this means here is that it's slightly buried underneath these where you put these 2 together, and that is really critical because you got to make sure you catch that one. It's like the railway tracks when I was first teaching you how to crochet, is that you got to make sure that the stitches line up together. So this stitch belongs to here, and that these 2 are part of the new edge. So let's begin to double crochet ourselves across the top section of this square. And so at this point there's only going to be 3 there because you only put 3 below when we did it. You see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and now we're coming into the corner again, and we're going to put 2 double crochets in a row again. Okay, I'm fighting with this ball here, and now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to come back down into the corner again for 2 double crochets. Okay, and it's like I told you before, is that you got to make sure you match these up. So the first one is actually underneath here. Okay, so if you follow it across, you can actually see this one here is belonging to the white, this one here is belonging to the yellow, so this one here is just slightly underneath of where you put it. Because there's so much going on in the corner, it kind of buries it a bit, and you got to make sure you capture it just right. So if you're familiar with crochet, you'll be aware of what I'm trying to tell you at this particular point. Okay, so we're now coming back into the corner again. So we're going to do 2 double crochets, 1 chain, 2 double crochets. So every time you hit a corner, except for when you're slip stitching, when the afghan is completed its full circle, that's the only time that you do not do what I'm telling you right now. So 2 double crochets, chain 1, okay, and 2 double crochets again into the corner. So on a typical granny, it's usually 3 double crochets on a corner, but we don't want any excessive gaps because we don't really want baby getting trapped in the gaps. So let's go for the next one here, and this one is just underneath. Do you see that? And we want to capture out the ones on the top, and you can already see that. Look at the size of this square already, and because I'm using a big hook, big yarn, this afghan only takes about 3 to 4 hours. I found myself just whipping this afghan off in about 3 hours. It was about 1.5 hours per ball. You only need 2 balls. So we're just coming back to the corner again, so it's 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets again. Okay, and so we want to continue again, so it's just slightly underneath. Okay, do you see that? So these 2 were part of the corner. This one here, if you pull these back, you can see it. So you just got to make sure you're matching up the railway tracks, as I refer to it in many tutorials. It's just you got to match what's on the top to the bottom. Okay, and so now we're coming all the way around, and now we just want to finalize off this corner. So let's double crochet 2 times. Okay, and chain 1, and go to the top section of this first chain that you started with. Make sure you grab into at least, like, you have a string underneath and on top, so don't ever just go into a gap in between. Okay, so you want to make sure you go right into a stitch and pull through and through, and there is your completed square so far. We're ready now to move up to the next level, so let's chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and I want you to go into this gap right in the corner. Okay, so double crochet right into the corner, and now we want to look for these stitches. So every time we're going around is that we're adding more and more in between. So here is our first one, so the first stitch is just slightly over top of it. Okay, you got to make sure you get into that right stitch on the first time, or your square is going to be off balance. So then the next one is right here. Okay, so then this stitch match the one underneath, and I am concentrating a little bit more than I usually would on a square tutorial because it is really critical that you do get your stitches. And so you're just going to double crochet yourselves all the way across, and I don't know about you, but this afghan is going so fast it's not even funny. That's how great it is. And so we're going to come up to our next section. Okay, so we got one more stitch to go before we end up in a corner. How can we tell that? There's the one there, there's the corner. So you can see that the stitches on top are just slightly toward the right of that stitch. And now we're going to just do our 2, 1, 2. So 2 double crochets. Okay, 1 chain and 2 double crochets. Like that. And now I want to start again. So I want to make sure I grab that first one underneath. Okay, and now I'm ready to go all the way across again. Because the stitching is so big with your big hook and your big yarn, it's very easy to tell if you've missed something or if something's going wrong right away in comparison to using regular size hooks and yarn. Sometimes you can't always notice if you skipped a stitch. Okay, so we're now coming up to the end. We want to make sure, if you're not really sure, see how this is kind of tight. This here kind of does have the V shape. Okay, so you can really tell where the corners are going to be. Okay, and going into a corner, so 2 1 2, 2 double crochet, 1 chain, 2 double crochet. So I want to cover an extra little bit in this information. So all you have to do is just go all the way around, just like I showed you already before, okay? And you just want to slip stitch as normal and just keep going and going and going. And eventually you're going to run out of one ball and you're going to need 2 balls. So I want to show you how to change color on this so that it's easy and effective. So you're crocheting along, okay? And what's happening here, and this does happen, is that I end up having a knot here. And sometimes in the manufacturing process, it's like, this is specialized yarn, so it's easy for something to go wrong, and instead of just trashing a ball, what they just do is they cut it and they just reattach another piece and they just put a knot in it. So how do you get rid of that so you don't actually ever see that knot? You simply get your fancy dancy scissors and cut that knot out. Okay, so that knot is now out. And what I want to do is that I want to back up here. So I want to take this stitch out and I want to just crochet as normal, so going in, pull through 2 and just hold it. Okay, right there. I want to take this yarn here and I want to create a slip knot. The slip knot, you don't need to have a slip knot, but the slip knot just gives you extra security that what you're doing here is not going to fall out later. Let's tighten it. So using this yarn here, pull it through. Okay, so that other yarn that you just let go is just kind of sitting there. So now what you need to do is that you just have to crochet, leaving these 2 straggler pieces on the top of the chain. Okay, so just leave them on the top, and what's going to happen is that when you're working along, these 2 stragglers are just going to seal into position underneath the stitches and nobody will even know they're there. And if you do a really good job, people really seriously won't know it's there. Okay, so there's everybody sometimes complains that, you know, they get knots in their yarn by the manufacturer. That does happen because balls of yarn, even when they're being made, have a start and stop, and you can't always predict when that will be when it comes to actually making the final balls that appear on the store shelves. So let's review again, and we're going to change color. So for example, maybe you don't like this color and you wanted to, you know, use a different color. How do you change colors? And it's again the same kind of aspect. Now because you can't really see it here, you can still see it on this side, but all you can just do now is, because you put it through so many stitches underneath, is that you can just trim it here, and it basically just pull it a little bit and all of it was, now you don't even see it. Okay, so what happens is that once you run out of a ball of yarn, okay, so we just want to do the same thing. Let's say we're just running out of this ball of yarn, we want to switch to the next. We want to just go into the stitch like normal, pull through 2 and hold. Okay, so you got a little section there, and again it's just what I just did is when I cut out the knot, just create a slip knot here, put it on, pull through. So now with this straggler underneath and this new end piece, is that I just happen to be on a corner, so when I go to do the corner section, I make sure that the stragglers are down underneath, and so they're getting trapped in by the actual stitches. So this is a corner, so it's my 2 1 2 configuration, 2 double crochet, 1 chain, 2 double crochet. And once you trap them under enough stitches, I'm recommending at least try to get 4, is that you can safely cut whatever's hanging out and you know it will not fall out afterwards. Okay, so now we're going back along the edge again. Okay, so we're just continuing along, and if there's more stragglers, just continue to capture it in. You don't need to worry about it so much. This stuff is nice big yarn, so it really does trap nicely without really any worries. And you just single crochet yourselves, or sorry, double crochet yourselves as normal. And I just go all the way back to the corner where we again just slip stitch and move on to the next level. Okay, so we're now on the edge. Okay, so there's no more stitches left, so we just want to do 2 double crochet, chain 1, and we want to slip stitch. Okay, I'm grabbing it and through and through. So every time you complete a full circle, just chain up 3 again, get 1 inside, and then just go all the way around and keep doing that until you run out of yarn. And you will end up with a really nice size. The written directions are available at the link provided in the more information of this video. And good luck and enjoy your new candy GAN. And this is Baby's First Afghan. So I'm now coming to the end if my Afghan was actually done in full size, and I just want to finish it off as normal with a complete slip stitch. So I'm getting my 2-1 configuration, so 2 double crochet, 1 chain, and then I'm going to slip stitch it as normal. And I want to pull through and through, and now we're ready to cast off. Okay, so I'm just going to take a generous amount. I just use the hand width of yarn left over. This stuff's actually really easy to cast off with, and basically all I just do is I take the new yarn here and I pull it through and pull it all the way, and I pull it, give it a good snug. Because of the way that this yarn is operating, it tends to want to tighten onto itself, and I just want to stick it through some stitches and pull this yarn through. Okay, so just keep moving along, and so every now and then I'm just going to grab the yarn that's coming from the straggler there and just pull it through like this, and this is knotting onto itself. So even if a child pulls on it, it's not going to fall out because it's actually knotting underneath. So pull it through and through, just like that. Okay, and I'm knotting it as I'm going, and just pull it through and through. And I'm just pulling on it here, just to kind of make sure that when a child pulls on it, the straggler's not going to fall out. And I just quickly just trim it underneath like that, so when people are pulling at it, it will not fall out.